Hello to my intermediate students. I'm going to be doing a video tutorial on fractions. I will also be kind of involving a little bit of decimals and fractions into this video as well, because I'm going to get you guys to do some work, doing fractions, decimals, and percentages over the next couple weeks. So this video will just explain the handouts I've given you and how you can go about and practice daily with the strips that I've given you. First off, these two sheets that you were given, these are for you to keep. They're just to reference back what fractions can look like in a multitude of ways. So for instance, this one is just showing a quarter fraction, several different ways using different math techniques. So there's the number line, there's parts of a group, there's a fraction bar, and there's also the fraction circle. So this shows a quarter in those different ways. The next one is kind of using everyday items to show what a quarter looks like. So these are for you to keep, to just reference back to. Now it's only an example using a quarter, but you can go ahead and think of a half, 3/4, or even a whole, what that could look like too. So, but this is just a start, and it's to kind of get you thinking about fractions and what they look like in everyday life, and how you can kind of use them different ways using different math techniques. Okay, next up, I've given you fraction strips. Fraction strips. So I've also written on them. When I got photocopied, it kind of dimmed a bit. But step one is to color each row, and then step two is to cut out each fraction piece. So I've gone ahead and colored every single row of all of the fraction strips. So there's percentage strips and decimal strips. What I tried to do was color kind of each row the same color based on whether it was decimals, percentage, or fraction strips, if that makes sense. For the first couple days, I just want you to focus on fraction strips. So what you're going to do is color each row, and then I want you to cut out each fraction. So, for instance, you're going to cut out the whole number 1. When you get down to the 2 halves here, you're going to cut out the 1/2 and then the 2/2. When you get down to the thirds, you're going to cut each third out, and just keep going as you go down the fraction strips. Try to, if you can, so that you don't lose the strips once they're cut, maybe keep them in like a ziploc bag or like a brown paper bag at home, because this is going to be a really good tool that I'm going to be just referring back to for practice. And so you don't want to lose any of the pieces. You want to try and keep all the pieces together. So after you cut them all out, I want you to try and make different kind of combinations of fractions up to a whole, so which would be the 1. Now there's different ways that you can do that. For instance, you could keep the number 1 strip just on the table in front of you, and then underneath it you could put a combination of 2/4 and a half together to make the whole. So you'd put it kind of right below it, that makes the whole line. You could try to use fifths and sixths to see how many need to be used to make the whole. You can combine a bunch of different ones, and that way it gives you an idea of what fits together and can make the whole and what doesn't. So that's what you're going to do with the fraction strips, and you're just going to keep practicing and putting different combinations together to figure it out. Later in the week, I'm going to be getting you to do decimal strips and percentage strips together before you cut out all of the strips. So you can color them, but before you cut them all out, I just want you to put them side by side and take a look at what similarities you see between the decimal number and the corresponding percentage number. So for instance, if I look at 0.25 in the decimal strip, what do I see as a corresponding percentage? 25%. So it's the same number. Same with 0.2. I get 20%, 0.3, 30%. So you're going to kind of look at what's common and what do you see that's similar between the two, the decimals and the percentage strips, before you cut them out. Once you cut them out, again, try to keep all the decimal strip together and then all the percentage strips together. And just like you did with the fraction strips, I just want you to put together different variations of the numbers to make a whole. So to make like the full one there. You'll also see in the fraction handouts that I've given you a blank fraction strip. And if you're feeling comfortable and you kind of want to test yourself, go ahead and try to fill out this blank fraction strip with the numbers. This doesn't have to be done any particular time. I just want you more or less to practice first with the actual strips, and then this can just be a really good tool to kind of quiz yourself and filling in each of the rows. You will also see the last sheet is 6 different fraction circles. Again, this is just to test yourself, and I may put in like a little kind of lesson next week, which would be the last week of January, to use these fraction circles. So you could kind of quiz yourself and say, you know, okay, in the circle with 4 different parts, I want to color 3/4. So then what would that look like? And then down here in the 6, oh, I want to color 4/6. Okay, so then what would that look like, coloring 4/6? So you can just kind of quiz yourself that way, or just kind of work at the fraction circles to get comfortable and familiar with using them as well. So all of these worksheets are coming from a site called Class Playground. It's sort of another website off of Toy Theater. So I'm also going to be sending you links for games and videos that will also help with using the fraction strips and playing games to help with fractions and decimals and percentages. Through Class Playground. When you go to doing the games and stuff, it's likely going to take you to Toy Theater. That's fine. They're linked websites together. So I will link the websites, and you can just go from there in terms of just getting more familiar with using the fraction strips and playing different games that get you familiar with fractions, decimals, percentages, and all that. Okay?